Welcome to Stronger Than the Story, Real Women, Real Overcoming. I'm Janae Robinson. In this summit, we sit down with women who have walked through challenges and chose to rise anyway. They are here to remind you that your story may shape you, but it does not decide what rises next. I'm here today with Bebe Kite. Bebe is a registered nurse, certified yoga therapist, and mindfulness educator with nearly 3 decades of experience in healthcare, yoga, and integrative wellness, rooted in a heart-centered approach. She is the owner of Heartshine Yoga, where she offers yoga therapy, mindfulness, and heart-centered embodiment practices that support stress management, nervous system regulation, and whole person healing. Bebe spent nearly 20 years working alongside Dr. Dean Ornish in Ornish Lifestyle Medicine and contributed to the curriculum and training for Eat Right Now and other leading mindfulness-based behavioral change programs. She currently serves on the International Association of Yoga Therapists, IAYT, Accreditation Program Review Committee. Her work weaves together traditional yoga and evidence-based care, helping people reconnect to their body's innate wisdom and trust in its powerful, natural capacity to heal. Welcome, Bebe.
Oh, thank you. Beautiful introduction. I'm so
Thank
happy
you.
to be here.
I'm so happy to have you. I
Mm.
always love reading the introductions, the bios, because it just gives us such a great sneak peek into just how incredible, just like the education, the time that you've put into what you love. And so, yeah, my
I'll say
pleasure.
I was impressed with her. I
That's
was
how it
like,
is. It's like,
ooh, I
wait,
want to meet her.
is that me? Yeah, oftentimes it's like, okay, well,
Yeah,
that's me in a
yeah,
nutshell. So
yeah.
awesome. Well, let's start at the beginning. What was the moment that you first felt called to yoga?
So embarrassingly enough, what led me to yoga was a drunk skiing accident. And I tore my ACL and I went to physical therapy, and a physical therapist recommended yoga. And at that time, this was over 30 years ago. I was 19 at the time. And there wasn't a yoga studio on every corner. So I had to do a little bit of research to find something. And I found something at a local community college. And this community college, it was a course in yoga. So it was a commitment. It wasn't just, I'm just going to take a yoga class. It was really a commitment. And the instructor was integral yoga trained. So really, I hit the jackpot right away with my first true yoga class. And at the end of the class, he led us through relaxation and then meditation. And it really was the first time that my body, my breath, my mind had arrived in one place. And I had such a profound letting go during this experience that I knew I wanted more of it. And it also opened my eyes to how stressed I was. I was not diagnosed with anxiety at this point. I was not diagnosed with ADHD at this point. And so it really gave me this comparison of what it's like to feel stressed and what it's like to actually feel peaceful. So it was the, embarrassingly enough to say, the accident, which in hindsight, thinking about it, I was 19, so I was underage drinking, using other substances because of the anxiety and the mismanagement of the ADHD. So what led me to yoga was the accident, but really what kept me coming back was that moment of transformation in that one beautiful experience.
Wow, that's incredible. Now you also came to yoga with a clinical background as a nurse. So you went to nursing school.
Mhm.
And so how did those two worlds begin to intersect for you? Because, I can hear you had such a transformational experience at 19. And so being able to bring that with you, I'd love to hear about that.
Good question. So at the time I was in nursing school during this accident, and I talked to my teacher, and I was also getting my school nurse certificate. I had this dream of working with children in the school system, and I knew very early on that I did not want to do sick care, that I wanted to do more preventative, more education. I'm really an educator at heart. And I had this one teacher, we all have that one teacher. When I talked about yoga, there was this spark, and she saw it and empowered me to move forward with that. And it led me to early on, while I was doing a practicum in the school district, starting to use these techniques with children. And a lot of my frequent flyers, all, nurses' offices all have the frequent flyers, and they responded very well. And I wasn't saying we're doing yoga, but I'd say, let's just hold our bellies and do a little bit of breathing. And they felt better and they went back to class. So I saw very early on. And so I knew that I wanted to do more of that. And so I enrolled through the Himalayan Institute, another very traditional form of yoga. My initial classes integral, then I went through Himalayan Institute, and there the lead instructor, the director at the time of the Himalayan Institute, worked at Highmark Blue Cross Blue Shield with the Ornish program. Dr. Dean Ornish had been delivering his program at a hospital through Highmark Blue Cross Blue Shield. And so I began that desire to teach in the program. And that's what she told me. You have to start teaching because we hire teachers with experience, but we love to have nurses in our program who can cross train, who understand the body. So that's really what led me to begin teaching yoga and really using it as a path to bridge nursing and the yoga experience.
Wow. And so a large part of your professional life was working with Dr. Dean Ornish in lifestyle medicine. Can you tell us about your experience with Ornish Lifestyle Medicine and what you learned from that experience personally and professionally?
Yes, highlight of my career for sure. I began working in the program in 2006. And the program, for those who don't know, is a heart disease reversal program. There are four pillars of the program: stress management, yoga and meditation, exercise, group support, and then a whole foods plant-based meal where participants are educated about lifestyle medicine during that hour of the program. It's for 9 weeks. They come twice a week. And what I began to see working in the program, and I had this nursing background that was very medical. And I was also working at a local hospital, children's hospital. So it was that you go to the doctor and you get fixed. And what I saw in the Ornish program was that people had such a role in their healing. It wasn't that external locus of control anymore. It was an internal locus of control. And that to me was really profound at a very young age. I was in my early 20s. And so I did go on to work in the program, and we can talk about that more, but nationally within the program. And it was just such a highlight of my career, being able to bring healing on such a more or a higher level. Wasn't just bringing healing to participants, but I was bringing healing to hospital systems. We were training hospital systems. We were training physician offices. And for me personally, I was asking my participants to practice yoga, meditation, stress management every day. This was a requirement of the program. And so for me, how can I ask them to do that if I'm not doing it myself? So the program made me very accountable. And the other thing that was beautiful about the Ornish program is if you worked in the Ornish program, you were asked to practice the techniques that we were teaching for several months so that you could begin to understand what the participants were going through. What were some of their challenges, barriers to eating a whole foods plant-based meal? And that really changed my life, that as well. So, personally, coming from anxiety, ADHD, and being accountable to my participants and being authentic that yes, I'm also doing these techniques and it's hard. It's hard to practice yoga every day.
Yes.
And I was putting a lot of pressure on myself, but at the same time, I was showing up for my participants. And that is what's really important about doing this healing work is that we have to do the healing ourselves. So I really took that to heart. And it really helped me in my professional, my personal life, because I was practicing yoga. And at the time, I had three small boys. I had babies, 3-year-old, 2-year-old, 6-month-old boys, and a husband who was working out of town. So I had to figure out a way, how am I going to do this? And but what I saw was the more that I practiced, the better I felt, and the more I was able to handle the stress that I was experiencing. And what happened was over the years, I did come on nationally with the Ornish team. That in addition was such a highlight to work with other healers at that level. And then the role became very leadership based. And it became something that didn't align with me anymore because I had been pulled into a direction. And I feel like I was good at it. I was good at the leadership role. I was very organized. Even despite the ADHD, I had a lot of coping mechanisms, but I was good at it. But it was not any longer aligning with my purpose. And my purpose is that I'm a healer. And there wasn't that same level of transformation. So I outgrew that position after close to 20 years of being in the program.
So how does a woman overcome a job that no longer aligns with her? And could you offer the steps that would be authentic to her own path? I think that's a really important distinction is to know when it's time to move into another direction so that we can expand, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, hmm. I feel that first women need to realize that they are far more powerful than they've been led to believe. And we are doing way too much for way too many people and not enough for ourselves. And one thing that we used in the Ornish program that's a beautiful analogy is the oxygen mask, putting that oxygen mask on yourself first. So that would be the first thing for women. And then there is the part about getting quiet and these self-care rituals that are so important. So that pause, that listening, that returning and reconnecting. And it doesn't have to be yoga and meditation. For some women, it's getting quiet and it's prayer. Some women, it's just taking some time for themselves, being with other women. So these things that help our nervous system to really, find peace are the same things that can really help you whenever you know that something's not aligning with me. And when you get quiet, sometimes it tells you that you need more than you're capable of at that time. So maybe you need therapy, maybe you need a life coach, maybe you need to enlist in that sisterhood, the mentors. I had a lot of mentors along the way through these big decisions, but knowing that there is a knowingness whenever we get quiet. And if we need to leave a job, I mean, if there's a level of abuse, then it's like, get me the hell out of here. But if we have some time, it can be strategic and beginning to plan that exit. So hiding money, mattress money, financially, because a lot of our worth is tied to our identity, our finances, our careers. So it can be strategic, but the big thing is knowing that you are more powerful, going within and having some support are three really big things.
Yeah, yeah. I love that. Absolutely love that. Especially creating an exit plan. I
Hmm.
think that oftentimes we are more so reacting than responding. And when we realize that we have that power that, oh, wait a minute, I can respond here. I don't have to lay all my cards out for everybody to see.
Hmm.
Nobody needs to know what I'm doing.
Hmm.
And that quietness to where we can start to hear our own voice and not
Hmm.
what somebody else thinks we should be doing,
Right,
right?
right.
It's like, oh, well, just do this. Oh, just do that. And we lose our authenticity.
Hmm.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you. Thank you.
Hmm. Great question.
Thank you. So tell us about Heartshine Yoga. How did it start and what is happening with it today?
Well, Heartshine Yoga actually started with the need that I saw while I was working in the Ornish program. Our participants were asked to continue practicing yoga outside of the 9-week program. And we offered them a self-directed community where they could come to the hospital and they could practice. But that wasn't enough for some of them. They wanted more. And finding something, and this was around 2011, finding something for them that was gentle was challenging. So I opened the space, a small space, and most of my clients were my past participants. And I gravitated towards more stress management because that's what was really true for me. That's what helped me along my journey. So
Yes.
it's very true to stress management, gentle yoga. And at that time, power was happening. Their power yoga, yoga was exploding. And I was small at that time, so none of that mattered. This was a little sanctuary for people to find peace. And at the same time, I started doing work in schools. I started developing mindfulness programs in schools. I worked at Pittsburgh Public School District, a yoga program, a mindfulness program, but I worked with a therapist. So I was brought in through the umbrella of SEL. And what the kids really, the need was practical tools, the deep breathing, the being able to tension, relaxation. So I've always seen a need for it. And that's really what Heart Shine Yoga is all about. It's about nervous system regulation. It's about returning to yourself. It's about gentle practices. Now, movement, there's a place for movement, but there is also balancing that stillness. And when I came on nationally with Dr. Ornish and the team, we started doing retreats in Sausalito. And so my work became more and more travel based. And so I had less time to devote to a yoga center. And so I had to shift away. But the beauty with my work no longer aligning with me is that I was able to reopen my business recently. And so Heartshine Yoga is back alive and well. And same thing, the same mission. And it really is about accessibility. Um, all beings, all paths, and all hearts are welcome at Heartshine Yoga.
I've watched this evolve when you told me that you had, the space and that some new things were going to be coming, and then just watching everything piece by piece come together, and then I just encourage everyone to go online and to follow you, because you have lots of pictures there, lots of just beautiful quotes and different things that you provide every day for your just the members. I'm assuming that they're members, and so I want to go there. Like, I want
Oh,
to go there. I want to
yeah.
go there and
Oh,
see it. It's just so inviting. It is so inviting. But I noticed that about you. You are a very welcoming, invitational human.
oh,
One of the
thank
things I like
you.
the best about you.
Yeah, thank you.
Absolutely. So you've shared with me that you're still raising your kids, right?
Yes.
So you're raising kids
They're in their
as a
20s now. Oh
they're in
my
their
God.
20s now. It
Yeah,
never ends, right?
yeah, right.
Motherhood never ends. And as a person with a neurodivergent brain, ADHD, and dyslexia, so will you elaborate on these conditions, first of all, for those who are unfamiliar, and then also just share your strengths and challenges when stress, fear, or self-doubt do show up?
Mm, okay. Well, the dyslexia for me is has been a really big challenge over my 50 years on this earth. And because so much of our worth is tied and at a very young age to our ability to learn. And so with dyslexia, even communication is challenging, phonics challenging. I still remember the day in fourth grade whenever I was asked to read and I really couldn't read. I memorized all the words of the English language, and my kids have done that too. So you develop some coping mechanisms, but nonsense words, I'm like, don't know what that says. But I had great parents who, my dad was an administrator, my dad was a principal. He was actually my principal, oh my God, in high school. Oh my God, poor man. Um, but he saw the need and he had me tutored at a very young age. But unpacking that self-esteem where, ADHD for me was hyperactivity. And I look back in hindsight, I wanted to be in art class, I wanted to be in gym class, and I wanted to be at recess. I didn't want to be in lunch because the lunch lady always made me sit. And I thought, like, why can't you just let me just, eat my food standing? What's it going to hurt? But I really I could not sit as a child. And two of my kids were the same way. So I can, sympathize with them. But so the neurodivergent brain for me is around communication. But I will say, and reading, but I will say that my superpower, my strength is listening. And I don't only listen to what people say, I listen to what people don't say. So, and that's not always a great thing because I absorb a lot. But that is a superpower that I have. And I think that's one thing that helps me in being a yoga therapist and being a nurse. And for my children, I knew the struggles that I had. And from a very young age, I made sure that my children's strengths were nourished. My kids are very agile and they are great at sports. They excel at sports. So I encourage that. And we ran as a family. Our house was chaotic, but I will tell you this, every kid on the block wanted to be at my house because there were boundaries. And that's another thing that we've all been in therapy. We've been in family therapy. We've been in individual therapy. But we learned the boundaries that we needed as a family. And I encouraged my kids. I didn't want to break their spirit. So I wanted them to be wild. I like wild. But at the same time, I also gave them safety. I gave them rules, but it looked different than other houses looked. And for me, that's really what dyslexia and ADHD, growing up that way, and for my children, that it's a strength. We're all very creative. I love to create, and I appreciate the comments about Heart Shine Yoga because I have really made it. I feel like I've been very creative and intentional in what I've brought into the space. So that helps me. And Audible, I listen to Audible. I mean, I don't sit and read books. I don't like to sit, but I Audible books. I'm educated. And I will say that Kundalini yoga, I started that later in life. I feel that it really helps me, my ADHD, number one, but it also helps, and balance is such a cliche word in yoga, but I really feel like it's a technique that helps to balance both my right and left brain, which a lot of times is out of balance for me. So it's something that I love and I return to.
Yeah, I feel like we have so much more brain science than we've ever had before.
Mhm.
And so much of that science is just confirming what yoga has I don't know if it was intuitively known or if they had sciences that we just don't have now that we just didn't know. I'm not sure, but it's incredible.
Mhm.
Absolutely incredible. So when so at for you, you're someone who teaches about healing and resilience.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
Are there practices that you return to when you need grounding? Like, is the Kundalini one of those practices? Meditation? What are the practices that you return to when you need that grounding?
Well, I would say that the meditation is something that I return to. And I practice meditation almost every morning. I leave my Zafu, my meditation cushion, next to my bed. I don't put it away because when I wake up in the morning, I sit and it stays there. And it's just that reminder. And other practices, yoga nidra is something, and that's one of the other practices that really helped me when I knew that my career, my job no longer aligned with me. So getting quiet, setting an intention, practicing a deep relaxation, that's where I feel healing really takes place. And I love to be in nature. For me, Ayurveda, the study of Ayurveda, is very important to me. I'm always learning about the seasons and how we really need to be in rhythm with the seasons. And the Kundalini yoga, absolutely. It was a missing piece in my yoga journey that also I return to. But I will say this, Janae, even though I do all of these practices regularly every day, I still find myself on autopilot. I still find myself completely scattered. Like, how did I get here? I don't even remember driving here. So it is a practice. And more than that, and I can remember the first yoga teacher, Dave Dunbar, his name was. He was the integral yoga teacher. If you're out there, Dave, hello. Um, you changed me. But he said, he said, when you're washing the dishes, just wash the dishes. And I thought, wow, that's so simple. Really? Is it? No, it's not that simple. So for me, I have to return to mindfulness techniques. And that's what I love about teaching mindfulness to kids, because these aren't things that I ever learned as a kid, like 5 finger breathing, something like that, or 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 grounding. I have to bring myself back to those techniques because I naturally, I'm vata, scattered. I'm like the wind. If I see something, I'm over here and I'm over here. But it's really for me, it's about intentionally bringing myself back.
And isn't that really the lesson of meditation? Is people will say, I'm not good at meditation. I can't sit still. I can't do it. But we're not supposed to be good at it because
Mhm.
even in life, as educated, as rehearsed as you can be in these practices, we're still caught off guard. There is still an unfolding in life that we cannot control. And so we return and we return and we return. And that's what we do when our mind gets distracted in meditation is we return. And
Mhm.
so, thank you for being so candid there and honest and vulnerable and opening up with that because even in our relationships, what is the number one thing that we need to be doing is repair. And that's
Mhm.
that return, right? The vulnerability, the saying, oh, I'm sorry. I'm going to own my part. And meditation can help us even with that. And
Mhm.
so, what a beautiful thing to weave into life, yoga. Just a
Mhm.
beautiful thing to weave into life.
Mhm.
Yeah. So, what do you wish that people understood more about doing yoga therapy? So, we're going to shift a little bit to the yoga therapist
Okay.
here.
Well, with yoga therapy, I feel like that moment that I learned about that internal locus of control. Because our bodies do have that innate wisdom, that beautiful capacity to heal when given the right conditions. And that's one thing that I love about teaching I teach a nervous system reset class. I teach it online, it's live stream, it's in person. That class to me is such a yoga therapy based class because what we're doing in that class is very restorative. And there's a letting go that happens in a class like that. And it allows the students to really begin to see that they have a role. And one thing, I want to say one thing. Dr. Ornish would say that genes are only half our fate. And that really stuck with me. So I feel like with yoga therapy, that even if we have chronic conditions, that's only half of our fate. We have a role in our healing journey. And a good yoga therapist is going to lead you to that understanding and help you create the conditions that you need and help you to listen to the wisdom of the heart.
It gets covered up, doesn't it?
Mm,
It
mm-hmm,
gets so covered up by so many things. And yeah, to really have that, the conditions
mm-hmm,
so that we can hear ourselves again. There's nothing like it. There is nothing like it when that wisdom floods through. Nobody
mm-hmm,
told you, nobody's telling you how to be. It's just from this space here. Yeah.
mm-hmm,
Yeah. So you've worked with so many individuals across different conditions.
mm-hmm.
What have you learned about the human capacity to heal?
Well, within the Ornish program, we had participants who were 4 weeks post-op. We had people that were on a transplant list. So it was remarkable to see that within 2, 3, 4 weeks, their medications were cutting in half. And early on in the program was called the Dr. Dean Ornish Program for Reversing Heart Disease Without Drugs or Surgery. So
Okay.
it was a long name. Now it's Ornish Lifestyle Medicine. But we saw this remarkable ability for the body to heal. And Dr. Ornish based the program really on ashram living, on practicing yoga, being in a community, group support, exercising, eating whole foods, plant-based. Still to this day, I'm a vegetarian because of starting in the program and being asked to try on the techniques. And it stuck with me because I feel alive. I feel great. So eating healthy, all of these things make such a profound impact on our health. And our bodies do have this capacity, this wisdom.
Yeah, and to see both sides of that, I think, um, to use the word balance again, it really does provide this balance of what each area can offer a person because we need it all, really. We need
Hmm.
all of it. We can't just say, "Oh no, we're going to cut this out. We just need one thing." And so to
Hmm.
see the intersection of these two worlds, and I feel like with yoga therapy, even today, there are many, many programs that are being introduced into the medical field. And I
Mm-hmm.
hope that that just continues.
Mm-hmm. The Swamis were really wise.
Hmm. They were. Yes, they were. That's why I say, like, did they know something? Did they have some sort of technology that we just don't have now? Or was it just that wisdom of sitting and the
Mm,
stillness and the being and really connecting to this universe that has so much wisdom? I don't know.
mm-hmm.
I don't know. So, if you could speak to every woman in the world about one thing regarding health or empowerment in overcoming, what would
Mm-hmm.
your message be?
Begin to prioritize yourself first because we're led to believe, the world leads us to believe that doing that is selfish. And when we put ourselves first and reconnect, we're showing ourselves love and compassion and respect, the same thing that we would want and that we show others. So begin to prioritize yourself first. And if you don't know how to do that, small changes. Begin with a self-care ritual that is 5 minutes of deep breathing or sitting in the morning, journaling, mindful walks. There's so many small things that really add up. In addition, I love to listen to birdsong and just meditate on the sound of the birds. So, being in nature, we begin to lose ourselves because we don't prioritize ourselves first. So, all of these things add up, and it doesn't have to be all or nothing. It can be small, simple, daily steps that add up to something bigger. Because I'm sure that when you sit for a few minutes and that's what you feel you have time for, it's going to feel good. And you're going to say, I'd like to sit for a couple more minutes. And then that 5 minutes becomes 10, 10 minutes becomes 15. But developing a daily habit and rewarding yourself for when you accomplish those little tasks. I did something for myself for 5 minutes every day. So what do I want? What do I want to buy myself? I buy myself shoes or new glasses or something fun. But I have goals that I set for myself too, along the lines of self-care.
Thank you. So, at the IAYT conference last summer, you set an intention to begin Kundalini.
Mhm.
So, will you tell us what happened after that intention was set?
I will. I set that intention. It was summer solstice and it was a full moon. And I set that intention. And Kundalini had always been this like mystical yoga. But there are a lot of Kundalini yoga therapists that are at IAYT.
Yes.
And it is a practice that is extremely therapeutic. And I had only really read about it. I had done some YouTube videos. But as I was getting ready to open, I had a friend, another hippie friend who wears patchouli, and she was at a store, and a woman approached her and said, "Oh, you smell so good. Is that patchouli you're wearing?" "Why, yes, it is." And the woman said, "Oh," and she said, "Oh, well," and they just started randomly talking about heart shine yoga. Well, it turns out that woman had visited Heart-Shine Yoga in its earlier form and went on to become certified as a Kundalini instructor and had taken many other teacher trainings, so has a very deep knowledge of yoga. And we connected, went to lunch. She had stopped teaching for several years, but was ready to teach again. And it was such a beautiful, universal, spiritual moment because things aligned for me in a way that I began. We have a class, and it is really life-changing for a lot of people. It's called Unlocking Your Authentic Self. And what a beautiful title for the class.
Mm-hmm.
And the class isn't offered online. It's only offered in person. And she made a really smart decision about that because it is a beautiful place for us to come together and to learn these practices. So I love it. And I feel that it's a very big part of my therapeutic journey.
The power of intention for sure. Yeah.
Mm. Hmm.
So we're approaching the last question.
Okay.
So when you look back on your own life, what brings you the deepest satisfaction or sense of purpose?
The deepest sense of purpose. So working in a program that you see so much transformation for me, and that was the gold standard. So having that in my own yoga center, being able to help people to return or come home to themselves. And that's why I've decided to really keep it a very traditional type of yoga center and it to be very nervous system informed, somatic practices, embodiment. And when people practice those types, those mind body types of practices, then there's transformation. So for me, that's where I find purpose. And I'll ask during my class, what techniques? Because when you're teaching, it's like you're teaching into the abyss and you're watching people and you see that they're breathing or you see that they're sleeping or they're not following what you're saying. And sometimes we as healers, we need to hear what techniques that we're learning are most helpful. And just the simple act of being able to sleep. For someone, a woman, a lot of times a woman who hasn't slept for 20 plus years, perimenopausal, postmenopausal, and says, the first time I came to this nervous system reset class, I had the best night's sleep of my life. So that's what gives me purpose. Hearing that people can sleep.
It's
Something as
powerful. Yeah.
it's very powerful.
Yeah. Very, very powerful. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No,
Something, were you thinking like something as simple as sleep,
something
right?
as simple as sleep.
Right. Right.
And
It can
and
make
I
such a difference.
and I will say this, one thing that I also when we were talking about intention, one thing that I learned from one of my mentors, Susie Amendola, she's also was one of the directors in the Ornish program. But there is a technique that very specific, I feel, to Ornish. And that's when we're in relaxation, asking the heart what the heart needs for healing.
Mm,
That is a very profound technique. And that is something that students will come afterwards and say to me, my heart said this.
mhm.
And so that also gives me purpose that I've led someone to, I empowered someone to get quiet, to ask, to listen, and then to act on it.
Yeah, and even in traditional therapy, they talk about, neck up and neck down. And so what a neck down practice that is to be in communication with the body because we're so analytical and we have to figure things out that we forget. We forget that we have this heart that has dreams, desires, and sensations and feelings.
Mm,
And so that is a very beautiful thing to witness for sure.
I
For sure.
love that. That is so true.
And I think too that sometimes it's hard for people to get there.
It really is.
Hmm.
It really is. It's hard to get them to walk through the door.
Yes,
And that's why the online classes can be a decrease some of that trepidation, hesitation to attend a yoga class. So eliminating some of those barriers for people so that they can make that first step.
very wise. Well, how can someone find you if they want to try some online classes or visit you in person, or just check out what you're doing online? How can they find you?
Heartshineyoga.com. I kept the URL all through while it was closed, and I'm so happy that I did. And I think it really aligns with the work that I've done. And I am on Instagram, or Heartshine Yoga's on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, TikTok, all of those things. But yeah, I would love to connect. I do yoga therapy as well, individual, and Zoom is a beautiful avenue for that. But yeah, look us up, like us, share.
All the things, right? All the things. Well,
Ah,
Bibi, it has been a pleasure. Thank you so much for participating in this summit. I think that you have just so many incredible experiences to share and beautiful steps for others to really look within themselves and find a way towards that transformation.
thank you. And I want to say that your mission, just this podcast and really educating women and empowering women. And I watch your stuff as well. And I love whenever you educate. You are so good at it.
Thank you.
You are so good at it. You are very wise. And I love that we met at IAYT and we shared dinner together and lots of other things. So I hope that our we can meet again at another conference.
I hope so too. I definitely have that in my future. So,
Awesome.
well, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.